Hello and welcome back to thejonas.net. My name is Donald Jonas. This is my 8th tutorial on Zentyal 3.0 using the 64-bit edition. Zentyal 3.0 is based upon Ubuntu 12.4 Server Edition LTS. In this tutorial we're going to cover a basic configuration of thin clients. I would also like to install webmin and do a little bit of a configuration on MySQL. So let's begin. In order to make this function, we're going to have to go into the DHCP and choose the interface that is handling the DHCP request. And we're going to go under Advanced Options. And under Thin Client, we're going to have to choose which server is going to be handling the Thin Client request. DHCP is going to need to know where to point the request when the addresses are given out. So if it's going to be this particular server, an example would be that this is the primary domain controller. You would just choose Zentyal LTSP. Now, if it's going to be a different server in your network, which a lot of people like to use multiple servers for this type of environment because your primary domain controller handles most of your requests and it does some file serving in a lot of cases. And in this case, like the way I have set it up, it's handling all the email. So it might not be exactly the first choice as far as setting up a thin client server. It all comes down to your business needs. If you have a lot of users using thin clients, you might want to consider using a secondary server on your network to handle the thin client request, like a secondary domain controller. We did set one up in a previous tutorial, and to do a quick example, that server would be, we would choose host, and that server was called server 03, and that would be the IP address. And now on that server, server 03, I would choose, of course, the Zentyal LTSP option. So the DHCP would respond and say, this is where you want to go for your thin client. Well, for this tutorial though, and I'm only going to be connecting to one client, I'm just going to use the primary domain controller as the thin client server. Now, of course, if you have the resources, fast network speed, a lot of processing power, big hard drive, then you might not have a problem with your primary server as the thin client host. Once again, really there's a lot of variables involved in making those decisions. Now we have architecture, 32-bit, and of course 64-bit. I'm going to choose 32-bit, and we have fat client. If you want to go with say a thinner client, a lighter client, you could choose uncheck this, and the desktop you would get would be the LXD desktop, which is a lighter weight desktop, providing the end user with internet access, webmail, maybe web-based applications. If you have limited network resources, this might be a good option for you. If you have a network that's pretty robust and the server can handle many requests, you might want to go with the fat client. In this case, that's what I'm going to choose, and I'm going to click on change. Now this is only a small portion of the thin client. This is basically telling the DHCP how to respond to these requests. Now we actually have to go into the thin clients, and I'm going to choose fat image. But before I do that, I'm going to just cover a couple of these tabs real quick. General, one limit session per user. I mean, this is all pretty self-explanatory. Other options, profiles, auto login. I'm just going to use the defaults for this tutorial, and I'm going to choose fat image, and I'm going to choose 32-bit. Very simple. Create image. Creating image. This process will be shown in the dashboard widget until it finishes. So we'll check the dashboard widget. And as you can see, it's building the image. Excellent. So while that is being built, that can take anywhere between, once again, depending upon how fast your server is, 20-25 minutes. Especially in this case, I'm using a virtualization. I'm using VirtualBox, shared resources, so it might take a little bit longer. While that is taking place, let's install webmin. So go to Google and type in webmin, and downloads. and I'm going to set my preferences to let me choose where I want to download it to, and we're going to choose Debian package. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. And clear list. And we can go ahead and install webmin. Right click on it, open with, go to System Tools, GDebi, Package Installer. If I'm going too fast here, remember you can always pause the video and rewind and go back. And I'm going to click on Install Package. And this is probably going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video while this is running and I'll be right back. Excellent, and it's finished installing. And I will click Close and exit out of the installer. And we're going to launch a web browser once again and go to HTTPS localhost port 10,000. And we'll accept the certificate. And we can go ahead and log in with root, the super user password we had set up earlier in the tutorial. One of the reasons I like to install webmin, I feel it's a nice complement to the already very nice Zentyal dashboard. It gives you a few options here under servers. You mean, like, for instance, LDAP. You can go in and gives you a little more access to the LDAP environment. I also like the MySQL ability, and of course there's Apache. And with MySQL, if you want to use your Zentyal server for other things too, like say you want to set up a website, maybe a local intranet, and you're going to have to utilize MySQL, well, here you go. I noticed on Ubuntu 12.4, I believe it pre-configures you a username password in order to get in. And the previous tutorial I done on Zentyal 2.2, we didn't have to do this. We could just go in and set a password. So now we have to locate where this automated password that was created, where is it located? So we're going to go into the file manager, and we're going to navigate to the Etsy, and go down to MySQL, and it's right in here in the Debian CNF. Open this up with a text editor. I like to use LeafPad. I can close this out. Now, just real quick here, it says it's normally your root. So if I try my root username and password, it's not going to work. So we're going to have to use the one that was created through an automated process. Just remember, you have the ability to change whatever password you want, but there's always variables to take into consideration. I normally don't copy a password. This is kind of long to type out for this tutorial, so I'll do it just for this tutorial. And click on Save, and now we have access. And the nice thing is, if I log back in, I can directly access to MySQL without going through that long username and password. And you can create new databases, backup databases. Gives you lots of options here. Now, one other thing I would like to look at would be MySQL server configuration. I like to access my servers from, like, say, my PC using the MySQL administrative tools. Won't be able to do that if only the local host can access it. So I am going to change this to any and save. I always like to restart it after I do that. Restart the MySQL server, that is. So now you got the ability to take advantage of your MySQL server. As you can see, there's your Zafra and Zentyal. And you have backup option for databases. User permissions, if you want to create users, change existing users' names. Just be careful when you do that. Some of these names are pre-created. You don't want to affect any systems, so you always want to proceed with caution. Definitely make backups before you make changes. And that's pretty much it with webmin for this tutorial. Just wanted to add that as a complement to the Zentyal dashboard, and let's check on the status of our image as being built right now, building image. This is probably going to take another 15 minutes or so, so I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back and we will proceed. Excellent, our image is finished building. Took a little over 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and set up a VirtualBox client to boot to network to test out the thin client. Bring this over and we'll call this just call it test thin client. And we'll choose Ubuntu since it is an Ubuntu desktop. And we'll allocate some memory to it. And I'm just going to take the defaults here. Hard drive is not really going to be that necessary in this situation because we're going to be booting to the network and connecting to a profile on the server. And we need to tweak a few settings, so click on settings and can increase the display. And network, we can change that to a bridged adapter. In our system, we'll set this client to boot to network. And that's pretty much it. You can minimize this for right now. And we'll start up this test thin client. And just take the defaults once again. And it's going to look for an IP address on the network using DHCP, and it should be pointed to the network thin client server. Excellent. It appears that it has connected. Here we go. There's the desktop of the thin client image we had built. Let me move this into position. And I'll go ahead and log in with a domain account. I'll use myself. This is a great way to take advantage of older hardware, older assets that maybe you're considering retiring, ones that would maybe be disregarded. But if you can utilize them as a thin client, maybe you can take advantage and bring down cost savings if users just need to use a few things like Office and internet access. Thin clients are great options for that, especially if your database environments are web-based. So each profile is unique to each user. We can create a test folder here. We can test out the web browser. Let me close this out. And I'll go to my website. Excellent. Test out another website. Excellent. Let's go ahead and log in with another domain user. And as you can see, there's no folder, no test folder. It's a unique profile for each user. And let's make sure that that folder is still there for the previous user that just logged in, like myself. And there's the folder I had created. Excellent. It is working as expected. Go ahead and shut this down. Slide that out of the way. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Zentyal thin client and the installation of webmin. So I'd just like to take a moment and thank you for visiting thejonas.net. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And thank you for all the positive feedback that you have given me on my tutorials. And have a nice day.